Hodl that Bitcoin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to BTC Sessions, the news. I've got a special guest here today. I've got Zack Voell. I'll let him give himself a little intro, and then we'll dive into the story here. So, Zack, take it away.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me on for some quick chats. I'm basically Bitcoin has just been a hobby of mine for the past few years. I studied finance, economics, and political science in school, and worked in DC. Had a couple jobs relative to those subjects I studied. My college was big on Austrian economics. We're one of the best Austrian economics departments in the US. And so those studies sort of segued pretty nicely into Bitcoin, something my roommate introduced me to during school. And since then, I've just been pretty active on Twitter, writing a few things here and there, and podcasting as a medium for myself and anyone who cares to listen to sort of benefit from the knowledge of other people in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space and the knowledge that they have. My show is the Coin Pod, and every week I try to release short 30 to 40-minute conversations with people around the world who use, build, and study Bitcoin. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and thanks for having me on to your show. We should have some good conversations today.
Awesome. Sounds good. And where can people find the Coin Pod? Is it on most podcasts, places that you can get them?
Yeah. So I'd probably point you first to Twitter, just simply at the Coin Pod. Every episode has links to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher. We're pretty much everywhere you would find your normal podcasts.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. Well, let's dive in. What I wanted to talk about here is just the general market sentiment. It's been we'll just say the word, it's been a bearish year, right? It's been, we got up to some crazy highs at the end of 2017, and it's more or less been pretty much all downhill since then. There's been these little spikes here and there. What I'd like to dive into, though, is the comparison of what Bitcoin has done versus some of these other altcoins. Like, have you noticed, I guess, a general trend here, or what are your thoughts on the market right now?
Yeah, so I can't claim to be a huge technical analyst or market guru or anything like that, but I think it's pretty easy to see a lot of these projects aren't doing so hot, Bitcoin included, at least as far as price is a measure. I heavily discount price as any sort of measure, having said that, for the success of a project, and I don't think it represents any of the level of development going into these projects on the developer end. Some of these projects are total crap and still have market caps that are way too high for anyone reasonable amount of comfort. But I'm not so sure. So the one thing I would suggest is I'm not sure that some of these Bitcoin maximalists that I know you and I both follow on Twitter and more or less sometimes align with, they're sort of dancing on the graves of all of these altcoins. And some of that may be appropriate, especially for some of these outright scams. But in my view, we've barely begun yet. You can't simultaneously say, yes, we're super early to all of this, and wow, thankfully the whole entire market has matured to the point where all of these shitcoin projects are dying off in mass. This is just another cycle that we're going through with all of these altcoins, and we're going to see it again. Some of these projects are going to spike in the next bull run with Bitcoin. Some of them are going to be dead forever, and we'll see new projects take their place. I am not at all bullish on the sort of cryptocurrency market being cleansed from all of these shitcoin projects. So that's my view, more or less. The prices are tanking, but I don't think we've seen any sort of awakening that, yes, Bitcoin is the holy grail of cryptocurrency, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I got some pushback on Twitter the other day. What did I say? Oh, okay. So Ryan X Charles, for people that don't know, he runs Yours. It's basically Medium with a paywall, and you can only pay with Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
So anyways, he had put something along the lines of two possible outcomes, and both of them had it was either all of cryptocurrency fails or Bitcoin Cash becomes the one and supreme coin, the only one that exists.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so there was those two possible outcomes. And I think I replied something along the lines of, or Bitcoin Cash becomes another failed altcoin and is relegated to the dustbin, Namecoin and Feathercoin, and I've listed a couple there. And I'm not saying that Bitcoin Cash is for sure going to disappear, especially that quickly. But what I was trying to point out is that was a very narrow view of how things could pan out. But the pushback actually came from somebody from Namecoin, and they were asking why I was so, I guess, being malicious. What was the word? Why so hostile towards Namecoin? And the point wasn't to say that Namecoin is terrible or that there were a scam or anything. But like at one point, Namecoin was like a top 10, like the next big thing coin. And most people now have no idea what it is.
It's pretty interesting. And I think a lot of these projects, like if you go onto CoinMarketCap or actually, I guess don't do that, go onto Nomics or something like that. And you look at like the top 20 projects, I think the Namecoins and Feathercoins and all of these coins that were sort of wildly popular throughout the like altcoin speculative community or whatever it was 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago are going to be the next like IOTAs, and definitely Trons, maybe even Dash and Stellar are going to be in there too. And I don't want to open this can of worms, but that makes me worried. I'm going to open this can of worms, so to speak, the Coinbase can of worms. Like with them adding all of these coins, I can't help but think that they're going to come to a point where they're reckoning with the fact that they're adding a bunch of terrible projects, like long-term thinking. Like maybe they're doing marginally interesting things now. That's, I guess, maybe an open question. I don't really want to offer an opinion on that, but they're adding so much stuff. They're going to have to delist something and sort of be like, well, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best project to add to our exchange. I think they're really polluting their brand, and I don't really see a super bright future with them adding what I think we agree are going to be maybe the next Feathercoin, Litecoin, this sort of thing, Namecoin. So yeah, that kind of bugs me. Something I'm a little concerned about, because Coinbase used to be the Bitcoin exchange. That was their brand, Bitcoin and nothing else. And slowly they've sort of, in my opinion, sort of lost their way in that regard. And it's kind of unfortunate. Maybe they'll, I don't know what'll happen, but that's my opinion. I think it's a little unfortunate, and I don't see it ending up super well.
Yeah, I was curious about some of the, when they came out with that list of, I can't even remember what the coins were now. I think Stellar was one of them, but a few random, like, I don't know, projects that
some of them
really.
Yeah, some of them were even, like I was looking into the list really briefly, and some of them were projects that still haven't even completed their ICO yet. Like they haven't launched anything. They're still raising funds, and just a little surprising. Not, I mean, like the Coinbase that I knew when I first got in Q1 2014 to the Coinbase that I know now, just totally different. And it's a little sad, I mean, to be honest. So we'll see what the future holds for them, but I think they could do great things.
Yeah. Do you think that there's going to be exchange-wise, this is a push because there's a limited number of people that are buying into just Bitcoin. It's just like a tactic to get the most bang for their buck. The more people trade and the more they can pump the idea of a crypto ecosystem where all of these projects are useful, the more trades they get, the more money they can make. Is that more or less what we're seeing here?
I mean, to be honest, I think so. There's definitely an element of opportunism as far as profit's concerned. But I think in the long term, that's a trade-off that they'll be better advised not to take, because we already have sort of gateways into the shitcoin casino, so to speak, via Binance or BitMEX and all of this. And Coinbase's brand was, we are Bitcoin. Like, we are going to bring Bitcoin to the masses and make it easy to buy, sell, and store your Bitcoin. And sort of the profit that they see potentially realized through adding all of these other projects, and becoming a player in the crypto ecosystem rather than just sticking to Bitcoin. I think long term, if they don't correct themselves and end up sort of having to bite the bullet and delist some projects in the next 2 or 3 years, maybe sooner, could end up kind of poorly. I mean, on that note, it's been emphasized by different sort of big thought leaders, if you want to use that word, on Twitter in this space, that your reputation is one of the most valuable things you can preserve in these relatively still early days of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And that goes for individuals as well as companies. And I think Coinbase might be spending a bit too much of their reputational social capital by adding some of these projects that could come back to bite them maybe long term. Again, we'll see what happens, but I'm not super happy with all the projects from the list that I was looking at, the projects that they're adding. So we'll see.
To reference Safedine here, their time preference is showing. I think I think they're they're looking for that quick profit to look good, but long term it may not be a good play. Now, I did want to touch on one other price point here, and that is Ethereum. Like when you look comparatively to a lot, I mean, other than just ICOs that have just been completely destroyed, but as far as like large cap coins, Ethereum has performed dismally this year. Like it's sub $200 now. It's consistently, like when you see Bitcoin drop, Ethereum's dropping, twice as much, if not more. And do you think there's some major reasons behind that, or?
So some of the reasons that I've seen tossed around, which I think make a lot of sense, are some of these ICOs dumping a lot of their Ethereum that they've been holding on to. Obviously, every sell has a buyer on the other end. I'm not really sure how much useful market analysis can go into the price. I don't know. There's only so much that the price can signal, I guess, is the main heuristic I use as far as people dancing on the graves of some of these altcoins or celebrating when like Bitcoin recovers and spikes over a week period or something like that. Prices across the board are highly volatile, obviously. And I mean, for better or worse, are just sort of a sideshow, more or less noise. And I'm not sure, like Kevin Pham, for example, obviously hates Ethereum to death. And I'm not sure. I think some of these Bitcoin maximalists dancing on the grave of Ethereum is still a little bit premature. And I think they might be shocked at the project recovering. And this, I'm even though it's cringeworthy to say these days, like I'm pretty solidly a Bitcoin maximalist. But I think Ethereum, like, is not said and done for all the developers that are still building things, regardless of whether they're, objectively useful or not. There's still a lot of money left to be spent, a lot of developers working on that project. And I don't think, I think it's taken a serious hit, but I don't think it's said and done by any means. So maybe we'll see it go into a prolonged bearish trend like we saw Bitcoin over 2014 to 2016. But who knows, really? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I have heard the ICO thing tossed around quite a bit. I mean, really, like last year when people were raising money for ICOs, a lot of them were keeping it in ETH because the price kept on going up. And so it was like, oh, wow, we're going to, double, triple, quadruple the money that we raised already. But now that we're dipping down to the early spike from 2017, a lot of those projects, if they raise the money late in the year, well, they've just destroyed their roadway for building anything.
Exactly.
There's that element of panic where people are like, well, we got to save this money from disappearing in front of our eyes. So it seems to be a bit of a run for the doorways right now. But that said, if once those projects are finished dumping, then why wouldn't there, it could be that kind of bottom where eventually there's no more projects to dump, and then you could see a revival. So I do agree that as fun as it is for a Bitcoin maximalist to watch this kind of thing, I don't think it's over. I think it's going to take some more time.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, the parallels I'm about to give aren't exactly analogous, but in the same sense that sort of a whole tribe of no-coiners are dancing on the crash of Bitcoin from its latest all-time high, Bitcoiners are dancing on sort of like Ethereum's crash too, and Ethereum and Bitcoin are laughing at all these other like smaller projects crashing too. I think it's just like a bunch of mudslinging. The price is an easy pot shot to take. Like, haha, your coin sucks because your price is down X number of percentage or more than mine. And I think at the end of the day, it's pretty useless. Just things will happen. This is cyclical. All of these projects aren't going to disappear in Bitcoin. There's been no great awakening. I think Ethereum will be here for at least a few more years. We'll see what happens. They have a lot of big decisions coming down the road. Some of them we're still waiting on, like a switch to proof of stake, for example. Who knows what the future holds for the project, but I think it definitely does have sort of a future beyond the end of the year or the end of 2019 or something. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. So once again, Zack, where can people find you? Twitter handle, podcast, take it away.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Zack Voell, Voell. My podcast is just at the Coin Pod on Twitter. And my roommates from college and I sometimes have a more lower key hangout weekly live podcast session at You, Me, and BTC on Twitter. So feel free to check out all three of those, and we'll see you on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the chat, Zack, and I'll see you for another one.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It's been fun.